And this is our 2024 ProMaster Super High Roof. So today we're going to cut some holes in the van. First holes, so no fuck-ups. I've read the instructions many times. Ellen's read the instructions many times. And we've already kind of prepped. So we got our hole for one window. Let's cut a template. So we're going to drill some fucking holes in this thing.
Will you explain what you just did?
Yes. Big dick boy figured this out. Probably from Bourbon Hop. Can't say. Or industrial. Industrial? Maybe? Either way. I used tape. I aligned the edge here because my first outline was a mistake. I traced this edge, but it needs to go through this edge through the van.
Oh, show that again.
I traced this edge, which was wrong. This edge needs to go through the van, and this will sit flush to the outside of the van. So it was tough to make a template, so I taped this edge here and ran the tape down along the edge, and then I ran the Sharpie around the edge there, which is the Sharpie line. So now I'm going to make a template by cutting this out. And I'm going to cut the outside edge of this tape. And then I'll drill along the outside edge of that. I'll still have to file some, but at least it won't be too big of a hole. Hopefully.
Are you ready?
So make sure this is correct.
Yes, do you want to check again?
You can never be too safe by double checking or even triple checking your measurements. You can see here I checked multiple times with the tape measure. I'll lay back and just visually inspect it and make a shift with my feet. Once you've confirmed that each side is equal and you're happy with the placements, you can trace an outline around the edge. Start drilling pilot holes along your outline mark around your template. Once you're done going around the perimeter of the template with holes, you can go to the outside of the van, mask off all the holes, just get a nice perimeter of tape to protect the paint on the outside. Then you can just trace around your tape lines, the perimeter of the hole that you're about to cut.
Tell me about your saw.
Wood blade.
What'd you just do to the rest of it?
Protected it.
Protecting what?
The guard plate?
Yeah, the metal from that, right?
I guess.
Okay.
Some other YouTuber did it.
Now remember in the last episode when I told you that there's something about just having the right tool for the correct job, and then I'm usually pretty lazy or cheap and I don't want to go to the hardware store? Well, this is a wood blade and I got the job done, but I was sending metal shards flying everywhere and I ended up having to go to the emergency room to get some metal removed from my eye.
Oh. Yeah. The camera is fine. Yeah.
And if you don't want some random stranger using a Dremel in your eyeball, maybe use the correct PPE, which I am doing, but use the proper tool, which would have been a metal blade in this case. So I may have went a little overly cautious when I was making the template. The template was correct, and probably right onto the window, but I didn't want to make too big of a hole, so I drilled pretty far in from my line to make my original holes in the van, thinking I wouldn't need to grind the metal very much, and that was wrong. I should have really just butt up right against the line to drill the holes. So I would do a dry fit, and it wouldn't fit, so then I'd grind, and then I would go back to doing a dry fit, so then I'd go back to grind, and then I did this for the next 6 hours. I ended up switching from hand filing to a Dremel tool, which luckily I already had. But again, I didn't have the right attachment. I was using just a normal metal grinder, which basically just deteriorated anytime I was grinding. And you guessed it, we had to go to the hardware store anyway. But with the proper attachment, which was a diamond blade, the job was much easier and faster. So when we installed the second window, we got the job done in 1/20th of the time. Part of that was the correct tool, but also just knowing what to do. Between the 6 hours of grinding and dry fitting, the run to the hardware store, a second run to the hardware store because I forgot to buy the primer for the urethane to stick to. I don't know what happened. I forgot to maybe record us installing the window. Maybe it was lost. Maybe it was because we broke our camera. I don't really know. But we got that window in. The next day we came out and started on the second window. The process was much the same. Take your template, lay it on the inside of the van, trace around it. Using that line that you trace on the inside, you want to butt up your marks just to the inside to drill. That way you don't have to grind so much like I did. After you drill your holes, you come to the exterior of the van, you mask off around the perimeter of your template just to protect the paint on the outside. You can also tape the underside of your jigsaw. And with the appropriate tool, hopefully, a metal blade, which I didn't buy while I was at the hardware store, you cut your hole. There you can grind down all the burrs, get as close to your line as possible by grinding, and that should make your dry fit much easier. And with that diamond plate, I think I only had to grind, I don't know, maybe 2 times this go around versus 6 hours the last time. After you're sure the window dry fits appropriately, you'll clean the surface with some alcohol. This way the primer has somewhere to bind to. This is a special primer. It's 3M one-step primer for the urethane to stick to. And this is the urethane. We did a few things differently than what the instructions said. There were some contradictions between the written instructions and some of the YouTube tutorials from the company. Some said make a V-notch in your gun, some said do a flat tip. Ended up doing the V-notch, and we laid a pretty heavy bead. We thought more was better. We wanted the window to stick and not fall out, but we had a lot of squeeze out, which is fine. I thought as long as there was a good bond to the van, I would deal with the squeeze out later. Push real hard to get as much squeeze out as I can, and what I didn't know, and what eventually becomes a problem, is that when I ran my finger around the edge to clean up the urethane, there's actually some drain holes along the bottom of the window. The instructions don't say this, there's nothing in the videos regarding this. The urethane clogged or sealed up these drain holes. When it rains, the water will pull in the channel of the window and it has nowhere to appropriately drain, and so it starts to seep into the interior. I called the manufacturer and they said that this happens frequently, so you think that they would put something in the instructions regarding the drain holes so that way you don't urethane over them, but what do I know? They said it's an easy fix. You just poke a hole through the drain hole from the inside, which every time I did it sounds metallic, so I'm afraid to push through that. So instead, from the exterior, I just drill a few pilot holes up through the urethane, and every time it rains, I just check to see if it's working. If anyone has a better solution to this, please let me know in the comments or send me a message. Here, we're just taking the big window, which we thought was going to be a bigger task, and just making sure it was going to line up with the door panel we were about to cut through. And because the instructions aren't clear, we're discussing how much urethane to use. We are thinking about leaks, and we didn't know we had any at this point.
I would say gas, right? Although I guess one layer leaks. Repeats.
Anyway, we'll worry about the urethane when we get to that point. The cutout of the panel was much easier than the bunk windows because you just follow the manufacturer line on the inside, so there was no template, no measuring, just plug and play.
This video is sponsored by Shell Bells and Patty's Drill Bits. If you need to punch some holes in something, talk to them.
How much nicer was it to drill a hole not sitting down?
Amazing.
And I'm not sure I would have ever noticed there was any leaks in the bunk windows or seepage, but because it was raining and we installed these windows, I was going out to the van more frequently, and I actually noticed a puddle of water below this window that we're installing, and I thought we had a leak because of the urethane. But after thoroughly inspecting and reading that ProMasters are notoriously known for leaking at the gasket of the door, it's coming from the actual door slide and not the window, which was a good thing. We didn't have a leak in our window that we installed. I remedied this by cleaning up some of the overspray, the lizard skin around the gasket, and installing a J-trim above the door, which most people who own a ProMaster do anyway. And because I noticed the leak there, I thoroughly inspected the bunk windows, and it was barely noticeable by the time I inspected it, and so I'm a little grateful that I noticed the puddle on the inside, although it was annoying to figure out why it was happening. But it led me to the bunk windows, and ultimately to a solution to fix all the leaks, hopefully. And after you get your window in place, you just secure it with some tape, let it sit overnight, and it'll take about a week to cure at the right humidity. But the instructions do say the minimum drive away time is 6 hours to wait.